Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to absolutely dismantle two massive, kind of intimidating myths that act as gatekeepers to your success. First up, this wildly pervasive idea that you somehow need an expensive, top-tier degree to understand business. And second, the terrifying notion that learning any valuable new skill is going to take you a lifetime. We're throwing out the overpriced textbooks today and focusing entirely on how things actually work in the real world. Okay. Let's dive into this, because the financial reality of a top-tier business degree is, well, it's honestly staggering. $250,000. For the top 10 business schools, a 2-year academic MBA program will easily run you $250,000. And for the vast majority of students, this astronomical cost is financed directly with debt. That's debt that stays with you regardless of what the broader economy is doing, regardless of whether you even score a job after graduation, and, incredibly, regardless of whether you actually end up liking the career path you chose. It's this enormous, life-altering financial burden tied to a very, very unsure outcome. So what does all that debt actually buy you? Well, a major study out of Stanford University by business professors Jeffrey Pfeffer and Christina Fong looked into whether having an MBA actually correlated with long-term career success. What they found was a resounding no. It literally makes no difference. As Pfeffer famously pointed out, if you have the skills, the curiosity, and the sheer drive to get into a top program like that, you're already good enough to succeed without it. It's largely just a super expensive credentialing system, definitely not a required toolkit for business success. This realization is absolutely huge for so many people with great ideas, what we might call sofapreneurs. Folks sitting on their couches with brilliant concepts who are totally paralyzed because they mistakenly think they're missing some secret, highly guarded academic knowledge. So, if we strip away the expensive credentials, what are we left with? Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the traditional MBA trap, break down the 5 universal business pillars, explore the core human drives in marketing, completely shatter the 10,000-hour myth, and finally, give you the blueprint for rapid skill mastery.
Section 1. The traditional MBA trap and gatekeeping success.
Section 2. The 5 pillars of every business, the universal framework.
So, the crucial point is that every venture, from a massive multinational corporation right down to a tiny little startup launched out of your garage, relies on common sense and 5 universal pillars. Value creation, basically finding unmet needs. Marketing, attracting attention. Sales, actually getting someone to pay you. Value delivery, making sure the customer is happy with what they bought. And finance, making sure you bring in more money than you spend. If you're missing even one of these pillars, you don't have a business, you have a hobby. This simple framework is literally the foundation of every single business plan that has or ever will exist. Let's ground that first pillar, value creation, with a simple candle business analogy. You can't make a candle that has the world's best scent, burns for a century, and costs $1. It's just impossible. You have to make strategic trade-offs. You pick 1 or 2 priorities and you turn that dial all the way up. But sometimes value creation is purely psychological. When researchers from Procter & Gamble watched women do laundry, they noticed them waiting for the machine to fill with water, kind of swirling powdered detergent with their hands to make sure it dissolved. The powder chemically didn't need them to do that, but the customer had this psychological need for reassurance. That single brilliant observation led to the invention of liquid laundry detergent, and boom, that is now a multi-billion-dollar product category. But how do you actually know if your idea, your value creation, is something people want? Listen to me. You cannot rely on surveys or the opinions of your friends and mom. They love you, so of course they're always going to tell you it's a great idea. As the founder of Intercom brilliantly put it, a swiped credit card is the only true proof that a problem is real. Look for early pre-orders. If your target audience won't open their wallets before you build it, you don't have a viable business yet.
Section 3. The core human drives and the psychology of marketing.
Once you actually have something valuable, you transition to marketing. And gathering the attention of today's stressed out, overwhelmed consumer, that requires tapping directly into psychology. Every human has 5 core drives: the drive to acquire, bond, learn, defend, and feel. The absolute most attractive business offers hook into 1 or more of these drives. Just think about why social media is a runaway, generational success. It simultaneously allows us to acquire status, bond with our friends, learn new things, defend our viewpoints in the comment section, and feel endlessly entertained. The more drives your product hooks into, the more magnetic your marketing becomes. And this brilliantly illustrates the point perfectly. Apple's legendary iPod launch is the ultimate masterclass in this concept. They completely ignored the logical feature, the 1 GB hard drive. Let's be real, nobody cared about that technical spec. Instead, they sold the emotional benefit. 1,000 songs in your pocket. Always, always focus on benefits over features. Features are logical, benefits are emotional. They focused on how the product makes you feel, which instantly engages the part of the brain that simulates a better, happier future. Emotion almost always trumps logic. Just look at Liquid Death. They built a $500 million brand selling plain water in a tallboy can. How? They won by counter-signaling, meaning they became the provocative, extreme antithesis to traditional, boring water brands. They sold pure affiliation and emotion, literally polarizing their audience on purpose to attract a hyper-dedicated fan base.
Section 4. The 10,000-hour myth. Redefining mastery.
So I pose this direct question to you. How do you actually learn these new skills, like marketing, finance, or even a completely unrelated hobby, quickly enough to make a difference in your busy life? Because let's face it, understanding the mechanics of business is completely useless if you don't actually have the time to learn the skills to execute your vision.
Society is constantly preaching Anders Ericsson's 10,000-hour rule, basically making us believe that if we can't dedicate 10,000 hours to something, we shouldn't even bother trying. But here's the thing, that rule applies to top-tier, ultra-competitive mastery, like becoming the first chair violinist in a symphony orchestra or an Olympic athlete. Business expert Josh Kaufman researched the completely opposite side of the spectrum, rapid skill acquisition. And he discovered the 20-hour rule. To go from knowing absolutely nothing to being reasonably good at a skill, it only takes 20 hours of focused practice. That's it, just 40 minutes a day for a month.
Section 5. Rapid Skill Acquisition Mastery, the blueprint for success.
Let's move to and see how this builds into an actual strategy. How do we optimize those 20 hours? First, set a concrete target performance. Don't just say, I want to be a DJ. Say, I want to flawlessly mix one specific track into another. Second, deconstruct the skill. DJing isn't just one skill. You have to learn beats per minute and musical keys long before you ever even touch a turntable. Third, research just enough to start. Do not get trapped in procrastination masquerading as research. And fourth, aggressively remove any barriers to practice.
Understanding this next concept provides immense relief. The frustration barrier. When you start learning something new, hours 1 through 10 are emotionally brutal. You're going to feel incredibly self-conscious. You will feel, frankly, stupid. But recognize that the urge to quit during this window is merely an emotional barrier. It is not an intellectual one. Be kind to yourself here. By making a firm pre-commitment to hitting that 20-hour mark no matter what, you push straight past this emotional resistance.
Now, what's really interesting about this concept is the guitar on a stand rule. It's the ultimate hack. If you buy a guitar to learn how to play and you keep it in its case, hidden in a closet, upstairs, you're never going to play it. The physical friction is just way too high. You must buy a stand and put that guitar right next to your couch, completely visible and totally within reach. By deliberately eliminating the physical friction, you completely bypass procrastination and guarantee that the actual work happens.
We've shattered the illusion that business is overly complex, and we've dismantled the myth that learning takes a lifetime. You have the universal framework, you understand the psychology of the market, and you have the blueprint to master literally any skill in just 20 hours. The barriers are gone. The gatekeepers, they're an illusion. So I leave you with this one question today. What will your next 20 hours look like?